I'm Oli Davis, this is the WrestleTalk News, and the top story today is Don Callis taking the lead over Dominic Mysterio in who is the most hated heel in wrestling right now. That's right, it's Dom v Dom. Dominadoltion. Donageddon. I don't know what words are anymore. In recent months, both men have recorded top scores on the Deciboo charts, but AEW's Callis has now eked ahead in the overall tally as his heat took literal physical form as he was legitimately attacked during an angle in Tijuana. This was at the AAA show Triple Mania 31 Tijuana, which saw the long-awaited Kenny Omega vs Vikingo Mega Championship match in South America. This match was originally planned years ago, but was postponed due to the pandemic and Kenny's injury hiatus, forcing Omega to vacate the title, which Vikingo won in a 5-way in December 2021. Omega and Vikingo fought in March this year on AEW Dynamite in a non-title match where their main event got Finco stars. The rematch, this time for AAA's top title, saw Vikingo beat Omega with a 6:30 splash, putting his reign at 589 days. But their excellent match is more notable for the angle gone wrong after the show. Callis, with whom Omega is embroiled in an intense blood feud in AEW, set to explode at Blood and Guts this Wednesday, was going to appear at Triple Mania to stand in Vikingo's corner, but Conan sent Callis to the back so Omega could lose clean. This led to Callis and his muscle Takeshita jumping Kenny during the post-show press conference. Here's a clip, courtesy of TJ Sports. There's Don getting one last kick in on Kenny there, but then off-camera, Callis is tackled to the ground by someone not supposed to be involved in the angle. Who appears to be trying to lock in a chicken wing.
Kenny, you okay?
Get off me! Jesus Christ! Worthy! Get off me!
It's my attempt at botchamania there. F4W Online is reporting the fan was apparently upset about what Don had said to Kenny, jumped Dom from behind, ripped his suit, concussed his eardrum, and busted open his mouth while he was trying to choke out Dom from behind. Dom was screaming profanities at the fan before he was pulled off and was said to be livid afterwards. Callis' neck and ankle were said to be injured, and he headed to San Diego for medical attention. According to Lucha Blog, though, who are very good at covering the Lucha Libre scene, the attacker wasn't actually a fan, but more a concerned bystander who thought Dom was legitimately assaulting Omega. The story about it being an angry fan seems inflated. It looks like a media person who thought this was a real fight and took Callis down to break it up, not because Callis had some real heat. The Wrestling Observer have since clarified that, writing that Conan told Callis the fan was a former security guard who did security for wrestling and concerts, so was there because his friends were part of the security detail. He was not supposed to get involved. And according to another source, he also ripped his suit. Don Callis getting attacked aside, it was a hell of a weekend for professional wrestling, with many Match of the Year contenders taking place in Japan, in Tijuana, and North America. And also what we're all really rooting for, me being right about stuff. Mine and Luke's latest 3-count episode went live on Friday, where we made our predictions for every WWE superstar at next month's SummerSlam in 3 words or fewer. It's a great series, go check it out, especially because I can tell the future. Takes wrestling bump. Heyman took a bump on Friday's episode of SmackDown. What do you think I'm gonna say?
Are you going to say something?
I'm gonna say Hurt Business reunion. Bobby Lashley seems to be getting the Street Profits in a new faction. This isn't my prediction because I don't want to sort of even predict someone losing their jobs, but I feel like Eric Young will be released by WWE without ever having returned to WWE. And on Saturday night, Eric Young showed up at Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary premium pay-per-view event because he was released by WWE. I'm all powerful. Anything I predict in a 3 words or fewer format will come true. Quick, Ollie, predict something to change your life. Nay, the whole world for the better. Swole Pokemon game. As Sat already covered on Saturday's WrestleTalk news episode, go watch that, Eric Young was reportedly rehired to WWE in November 2022 by Triple H. But 6 months later, in April, Young was released without ever having graced our screens. PW Insider then spotted him at Detroit Airport on Saturday, where he would return to Impact later that day. Fightful Select have now added the details behind Young's departure. And for a change, it wasn't Vince McMahon doing the breaking up, it was the wrestler quitting on their own morals. Young reportedly requested his release in April 2023, which was granted. His 90-day non-compete clause expired last week, freeing him up to return to Impact. Apparently, the reason Young gave for wanting to leave WWE was because he did not want to work with Vince McMahon. Once WWE's deal with Endeavor was announced, seemingly cementing McMahon's position in the company, Young requested his release on moral, creative, and personal reasons. Young had already been released in April 2020 as part of WWE's very cynical round of cuts at the start of the pandemic. Young claims he had once told Vince to his face, "Look man, if you can't find 10 minutes for me to do something, then you're failing. You know you're failing yourself, and you're failing your company." Young's reported reasoning for his most recent WWE departure contradicts WWE's own stance on Vince's involvement in running the day-to-day product. Young's return wasn't the only big news at Slammiversary though, so I'm going to run you through the entire pay-per-view in just 1 minute, in one take. And because there's something apparently not talking to itself on our monitor, I'm gonna set a little timer here. Right. For 1 minute. Okay, don't do an alarm thing, phone. Timer, 1 minute. Right. Come on. Kenny King beat Joe Hendry on the pre-show for the Digital Media Championship. Kushida won the Ultimate X match to become the X Division #1 contender. Jake Something has reportedly signed a deal with Impact, who was in that match. Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich beat the Coven to become the new Knockouts Tag Champions. EY made his return as Scott D'Amour's mystery partner. Team Canada against Bully Ray and Dina. Young had a bone to pick with Dina as he and kayfabe murdered him last year. A1 got involved. More Team Canada. I've only got 180 words to do these recaps, and I've spent so many on Team Canada, and I don't regret a thing. D'Amour and Young win. Leo Rush beat Chris Sabin via injury angle to become the new X Division champion. Former NXT UK stars Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster became the new tag champs as Subculture. Eddie Edwards beat Kaz. Trinity won the Knockouts Championship from Perazzo, and after a night of title changes, Alex Shelley retained his world title against Nick Aldis to be confronted by returning Josh Alexander to close the show. Oh, yeah! Oh. And there is the contradictory, soothing music to how loudly I finished that. Oh, I hate it. I really hate that. It reminds me of having to wake up. Over in AEW, there are some changes behind the scenes in how the promotion is run. Pat Buck, the former WWE producer from 2019 to 2022, famous for being beaten up by Nia Jax in that one episode of Raw, joined AEW last April as a coach. PW Insider is now reporting he has been elevated to Vice President of Talent Coaching, where he'll oversee the coaching staff for matches on both Dynamite and Collision. The promotion is already paying off, as it was reportedly Buck who brought on Ari Daivari and Sarah Stock in as producers, with the former agenting the excellent 2 out of 3 Falls FTR vs Bullet Club Gold match on Saturday's episode of Collision. Perhaps they'll be the ones enforcing AEW's new ban list of wrestling moves, which has seen some maneuvers outright banned, while others require special clearance from backstage officials. Otherwise, the wrestlers who perform them will reportedly be fined. Dave Meltzer has added this was more of a formality. He added many of the moves aren't banned, they are just subject to agents' approval, which the wrestlers were already seeking anyway. Meltzer doesn't expect this to tone down the on-screen product and is standard procedure. This does come at a time, though, when AEW is facing criticism for its in-ring style, most notably Kenny intentionally taking a driver on his head at Forbidden Door. But we've not just got one 1 minute, 1 take for you today, we've got 2 1 minute, 1 takes, Jesus Christ. So I'm about to do Collision 2. Got my 1 minute timer again. And here we go. Kevin Kelly missed the show because he was in Japan for the G1. Negative 5-star show, but Ian Riccaboni was great filling in on commentary. The show opened with FTR vs Bullet Club Gold in a near hour-long 2 out of 3 Falls match in one of the best TV matches of all time. Jay White hit the Blade Runner on Cash Wheeler for the first fall, FTR got the second, but Robinson tapped out in Harwood Sharpshooter in Canada for FTR to retain just minutes from the hour limit. Willow Nightingale became the second ever Owen Hart Women's Cup winner, almost entirely thanks to Riccaboni rapping during her entrance. It was actually awesome. Ruby was a runner-up. God damn it. Ruby was a runner-up for the second year in a row. The Kings of the Black Throne squashed some enhancement talent, and CM Punk was first cheered, then booed in his Owen Hart Men's Cup final against Ricky Starks. There's only one thing for it. Turn the other guy heel. Barely a year after his face turn against Stobbs against Hobbs, Starks held onto the ropes during his pin to win, likely the start of a heel turn. Ugh! That, Luke, is the sound of victory. We've got a full podcast review over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel later today, so go and check that out. But meanwhile, it's SummerSlam soon, so go watch Adam Blompier fantasy book the card now.
I know, you're so lucky. I'm Adam from WrestleTalk, and here's my fantasy booking of WWE SummerSlam 2023.